prominent civic-minded citizens and benefactors of Townsend for several generations. There are other Fessendens buried in the cemetery and also in the old burying ground. Aaron Fessenden was the first of this line to live here, building a large house on what is now Fessenden Hill to the north of town in 1760. A small-scale coopering business was started in the early 1800s by his son Benjamin Fessenden Sr., 1772 to 1839. His son, Benjamin Fessenden Jr., 1805 to 1882, continued the coopering business, building a mill on Hawthorne Brook. He had at least 10 children. I don't know them all, but including Anson, 1839 to 1907. A Civil War hero, Anson went into business with his father after mustering out, creating the B and AD Fessenden Company, which produced the wooden barrels. This company grew to become the largest such company in the United States, with branches throughout the country. Anson was responsible for the town's bandstand existing and the building of Memorial Hall, Townsend's Town Hall, in 1890. It was a memorial to the Civil War veterans and soldiers. He served as the first president of the Townsend Historical Society and oversaw the GAR, the Grand Army of the Republic Society of Union Veterans. Anson had two sons, Alfred, 1867 to 1932, known as Fred, and Robert, 1883 to 1945, known as Rob. Alfred served in the state legislature and turned the management of the barrel company over to his brother Robert when he retired in 1912 at the age of 45. Robert built a 3-story facility with conveyor belts to speed up the manufacturing, making it a lucrative business. Alfred had two sons, Stanley, 1904 to 1978, and Donald, 1905 to 1985. Stanley continued the B&AD Fessenden Company, which often employed 200 to 300 men until it closed for good in May 1960, a victim of changing modern times. Stanley is buried with his wife in Lunenburg, where they moved and built a house, but his brother Donald, who went into journalism, is buried here with his wife and their daughter and granddaughter, a little further down Price Avenue here, where a bouquet of flowers is. I think it's a little farther than I can see from here. They have flat stones on the ground. They are not in the Fessenden plot here. Walter Fessenden, 1813 to 1884, a brother of Benjamin Jr., founded the first bank in town and served as its president. He was also Townsend's postmaster and the delegate to the Massachusetts Senate. His son, Albert Fessenden, free library, Riverbank Terrace is. The factory unfortunately burned twice, after which the company went out of business. Albert Fessenden, 1839 to 1884, was active in leading the local Odd Fellows organization and finance committee, as well as being a major supporter of the highway department, school board, and fire department. He and his wife Anne had a lovely home built at the head of the town common. In later years, this became the St. John Rectory, a beautiful building which recently burned. In 1897, Albert's widow Anne endowed a new plot here on Fessenden Hill to be Henry Price's new resting place. Walter also had two daughters, Harriet Nellie Fessenden Powers, 1840 to 1921, and Amanda Elizabeth Fessenden Dwight, 1848 to 1925, who left $51,000 to the town for aid to the poor and both the library and cemetery department use, and the Amanda Dwight Entertainment Fund, which continues to this day to sponsor town entertainment and presentations. In this plot, there are small stones for Albert and Dan, and to the left for Walter, Harriet, Ellen, and Amanda Dwight. Amanda left the money. She said that she had committed some unspeakable sin, and she was trying to atone for it by leaving the town money to make up for whatever she had done. We will go next to the monument, monument marker right here, which the Fessendens gave the land for Henry Price's monument. Now, if no one heard the talk on the old burying ground, this will be a sort of a surprise to you. Henry Price, 1697 to 1780, is sometimes referred to as the father of Freemasonry in America, or as we just refer to them, the Masons. Henry Price was born in or near London, England in 1697. He came to Boston, Massachusetts about 1723, at around 26 years of age. In 1733, he was appointed by warrant from the Grand Lodge of England as Provincial Grand Master of Masons in New England. That same year, he was also appointed cornet in Governor Jonathan Belcher's troop of guards with the rank of Major and became known as Major Price. But this honor was just a position of flag bearer, not an actual cavalry or infantry office. In Boston, Henry became a successful tailor and shopkeeper, and he retired to Townsend in 1761. In Townsend, Price served as representative to the provincial legislature, since this was before the Revolutionary War, in 1764 and 1765, and he owned an estate of several hundred acres, including farms, mills, and shops. He married Mary Townsend when she was 17, and they had a daughter, Mary. But she died his wife died, Mary Townsend died in 1752, and after that he married Mary Tilden, who died in 1759, along with his daughter Mary from his first marriage, dying in 1760. In 1771, when he was 75 years old, he met and married Lydia Randall, a young widow with a son, and together they had two daughters, Mary and Rebecca. Henry died in 1780 at the age of 83, 6 days after being hit in the abdomen by a glancing blow from an axe while he was splitting rails. And he was buried in the old burying ground. And this is a picture of his stone there. It was said to be a yard square. It was a slate stone. It was I think it's much more lovely than the stone that is here. This stone still exists, but it's not here. This large slate stone with the rounded top and winged death head and scroll design down the sides was inscribed with the following lengthy epitaph, and they have some of it on the back, but it's so lengthy that they don't even have the whole thing here. In memory of Henry Price, Esquire, was born in London about the year of our Lord 1697. He removed to Boston about the year 1723, received a deputation appointing him Grand Master of Masons in New England, and in the year 1733 was appointed a cornet in the governor's troop of guards with the rank of major. By his diligence and industry in business, he acquired the means of comfortable living, with which he removed to Townsend. In the latter part of his life, he quitted mortality the 20th of May, A.D. 1780, leaving a widow and 2 young daughters, with a numerous company of friends and acquaintances to mourn his death, who have that ground of hope concerning his present lot, which results from his undissembled regard to his Maker and extensive benevolence to his fellow creatures, manifested in life by behavior consistent with his character as a Mason and his nature as a man, an honest man, the noblest work of God. So all that was written on the first slate stone. In 1857, Masonic officials from Boston searched for and found his resting place with the stone fractured almost through its entire length. Well, it didn't really look that bad in the photo. They began an effort to move Henry Price for reburial with elevated status. Well, I guess it's up higher. You could say it's elevated. After resting in peace for over 100 years in the old burying ground, Henry Price's remains were removed and reinterred here in 1888 in a family plot endowed by the family of Albert Fessenden. They actually owned this, and they allowed him to be reburied here. A large granite block monument was placed there and dedicated by Governor Endicott. The original gravestone was removed to the Grand Lodge Masonic Building on Boylston and Tremont Streets in Boston. I think it is still there. Every year, the Masonic delegation still visits Price's current resting place in honor of their patron and founder on the Sunday in May that is closest to the date of his death, on May, which was May 20th. In 2008, an especially large delegation of Masons descended to pay tribute, marking the 275th year since the founding of the Masons in America. Henry Price has now been resting at peace in Hillside Cemetery for over 130 years, gone but not forgotten. And as far as I know, he's the only person who has been in this cemetery for over 100 years after being in the old burying ground for over 100 years. Now we're going to walk over this way to the crest of the hill.